Okay, well, I think everybody's in here that needs to be in here. Who wants to present first?
Yo,
Should we go in
Team
order?
T, Team PWA. Let's represent.
I
Is
mean,
everyone here?
yeah, I think so. Other than Matt and I can't remember
Nicole,
names. Yeah.
paging Matt and Nicole.
Hello.
Your car alarm is
There's
going
Matt.
off out in the parking lot.
If one of you wouldn't mind spinning it up and sharing your screen, and whoever wants to present, if you guys want to take turns, whatever. But just run through your project.
Who wants to pull it up?
Let's have you pull it up, Gavin.
All right.
And then we can talk about like the process by which we chose what we were doing,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately getting there, and the steps along the way that we took.
Alrighty.
So I'll start us off as I kind of brought us into the idea of this web app is that I have a buttload of teas and coffees that some people who know me can attest to, and I never know what is in each jar. So I have a Raspberry Pi next to all my teas and assorted coffees that gives me a description of what each tea is. So we built a progressive web app that kind of mimics what's on my Raspberry Pi. If we go through and click on some of these tea names, it'll bring up the description, and underneath is a hyperlink to go buy the app or buy the teas and get more information. Some recommended brews are on some of these sites. And if we return back to the main site, we have a timer at the top for brewing purposes. So we have a play, pause, and stop button. I would like to hand it off to probably Matt to talk about the design choices that we made for the website.
Gotcha. So we wanted to kind of keep neutral tones, and John had a palette that he had posted in the PWA text. That's kind of what we used for the background and the text. That way it all looked kind of uniform. And then as far as the drop downs go, I'm going to try to pull it up on my end too so I could show you the code. There we go. So we're using this script here to do the drop downs. And then as far as the actual items themselves, you can see that in this HTML it doesn't have every single one of them listed. What we did was we stored them in this app.js, and it has all the information we want from them. So if we wanted to change the actual items in the future, we could. So if we wanted to add like a sort by manufacturer or the drink type, and then if we go down here, we have the function where we actually show the teas. And it just goes through and adds each one as a drop down.
Do you mind me asking where this data set came from? Is this something you put together yourself, or is this like a publicly sourced thing?
The actual code.
No, the T data, like where all the T titles and descriptions and everything came from.
Oh,
That
I think John
that
put that
was
in there.
yeah. So I aggregated that from like data that I got from the actual teas that I have downstairs.
Oh, nice.
So
Cool.
yeah.
And I guess now I'll go just to explain the um the actual web app itself, the PWA. Um we did struggle with this a little bit at the start. Um Mostly because there were a lot of niche little things that we didn't really know about it. But in the end, it ended up coming out really nice and working better than I thought it would. And for those who don't know what a PWA is, basically when you have a normal website like this, in the top right up here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but there is this button, and since I already have it downloaded, if you didn't, you would hit download and you'd be able to open it like its own application, standalone from whatever browser you're using. And while it seemed like it was going to be a lot really easy at the start, learning how to do it for the first time was interesting to say the least. And just in case if anyone is curious and they want to look at it, I this is a public website that anyone can look at, and I'll put a link to it in the questions thing if anyone wants to look at it and try it. I don't know exactly what browsers it works on. I know it's picky with some of them. Some browsers just don't support it. I know Chrome does. I'm not sure about everything else. And are we missing anything that we still need to cover?
I think if Nicole's here,
You have a
there's
quick
one thing.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if you guys were to keep working on this, right? Let's say this is a project you guys continue doing. What future plans would you have for this website as far as improvements?
What I think. Oh,
That's where I think Nicole could chime in. Like she has some code that if we were to implement the sorting. Oh, Nicole, I see you unmuted yourself.
Okay, yeah, I can unmute myself. I have background noise, so I'm trying to keep it quieter. Something I was trying to work on, there was a struggle to try to get it to work is I think it would be cool to have a scroll down. So you would have your navigation bar at the top, and it would be based on the different types of tea, whether you want green, black, herbal, oblong, a white tea, some of the options. And when you click those navigation tabs, it would actually bring you on the one page down to which ones those teas were. So there would be a list of exactly black teas you could choose from if that's what you chose. So that's one thing I really would like to try to get working, hopefully.
I would like to add another thing that I think would be really cool to add in the future is finding a website that has a lot of teas and coffee. Well, first of all, adding coffees, but finding a website that has a lot of teas and maybe even using a web scraper to scrape that data instead of us putting it in manually. I think that'd be a very cool thing to add to it as well.
Yeah, because we have the infrastructure that if we get the data, we're automatically generating these HTML tags that we don't have to manually enter in the data. These tags and these fields are generated. And that was kind of a godsend from.
I think the way we did that, while I was looking for sources on the WPA thing or the PWA thing, I accidentally found came across a website that does that already. So we did have sources like that there, and I think adding something like that would really just help it in the future if we choose to continue with it and wanted to make it a bigger project. It already has the framework to be expanded upon.
Now, would you consider bringing this to other platforms? It being a PWA, like bringing it to mobile apps as well.
I mean, absolutely. I don't see why not. I haven't actually tested it, but if I understand it correctly, if you open on your phone, there would be an option to download it like an app. So if I'm understanding it correctly, I haven't tried it, but in a way, it already is available on other platforms.
And I think Matt might be able to speak on this a bit more because Matt had some experience in navigating to the site on their phone.
As far as adding it to your phone, I didn't really have anything about that, but it does format pretty nicely on mobile phones. I have it open right now on my iPhone, and it looks really clean.
Okay.
So if you open it in Safari, you should be able to go to the share button and actually add it to home screen as an option.
Oh, yep, there it is.
There you go.
Just a real quick question about user interface here. What I feel like you're going for a very Zen aesthetic here, which is what you think when you think tea. Are there any other design decisions that you made that brought you to this choice of color?
We wanted a warm, neutral tone, and that's what led me towards like some very muted and um like reds and greens, kind of a fall aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
It also reminded me of a lot of tea harvests are better in the fall. So I thought it kind of both reflected in the background. We can see the Yunnan sourcing site. There was a little bit of inspiration there from their color palette, but just
I
a
see.
fall atmosphere.
And if there were anything that you were to improve here, uh, would you consider other designs, other, not necessarily speaking structure, but when I look at this, it's not wholly a demerit, but I feel that because a lot of the colors are very close to each other on the spectrum, someone with disabilities such as dyslexia or maybe a very specific color blindness, maybe having some difficulty, for example, picking up your T selection helper uh, logo up top there because it kind of blends in so well.
Mm. So we probably could have done that with um a thicker border around like the white border that we have
Mm-hmm.
around the lettering to make it stand out more.
Yeah. No, the black text, there's no doubt about that. Extremely high contrast. You're going to see that timer from across the room. But I'm just kind of thinking like if someone's in their kitchen with an iPad and let's say they wear glasses, they may have a little bit of difficulty discerning the text. But I also understand that this is the beginning of a very great project. So I'm assuming there are many more graphic design decisions to come.
Now, our resident web expert, Dietrich, is in the channel. And being in his client side.
Oh,
web
I
scraping
most
tool,
certainly am, but my dogs are barking.
I was curious to hear any feedback you might have personally.
If I can get them to shut up long enough, yeah. All right, so I got the water sprayer, so now they're going to shut up, at least momentarily. So yeah, aforementioned ADA kind of issues for folks that have color blindness or some kind of vision impairment. You could always just apply a high contrast style sheet that you could toggle on or off. That's one solution that's pretty lightweight. The other thing, if I saw that correctly as you were scrolling through the JSON file, is the steep time was in there and available, So what I would think would be of extreme utility for a timer like that is to have some kind of alert or modal or something that shows up and lets them know that they have exceeded the recommended timing for that particular blend of tea. I think that would be of extreme utility. My ex worked for Tivana Corporation before Starbucks bought them and dismantled them, so I'm well acquainted to the nuances of the tea world where you have to time it exactly right. But
we
yeah,
actually planned.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say we actually planned on having a timer per tea, but we did run into issues getting it to work, so we had to settle for just the one.
Right, and I think it might be actually even easier for you to just say, "Oh, it's exceeded that maximal time," as long as you could express. I noticed it was like in the form of a range. I think to simplify things with your data set, maybe just say like, "What's the top end of this?" and say, "Don't go past that," right? Or play a sound or do something, right?
Or turn the timer red or something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be very dramatic to get their attention.
And that was
there's
also a stylistic choice for a lot of these teas I followed, like when I was scraping the data from the sites and from the boxes and packaging materials, the methodology for Eastern style tea brewing really doesn't focus on time very much, and that's reflected in the data that I have. Like some of these are 6+ minutes, which is very kind of obtuse in that way, that just reflects the Eastern style of tea brewing.
And I'm just double checking to make sure that I didn't miss something. So on the actual web app itself, you don't have any of that information that's in app.js actually displayed, do you?
We have the description as the first element, and the link is hidden behind the buy hyperlink.
Right, but you guys don't actually have any of the types, how long, none of that actual information is expressed in the web page as it stands then, correct?
That's correct. Just
Other
the
than
description and
yeah, no.
Okay. Because you guys have somewhat of a standardized layout in that JavaScript file, a recommendation I'd have, if you're just looking to future proof, would be to maybe find somewhere on this page that some of that information can be standardly listed under each T set, because even if you don't have the timer implemented, without clicking the buy button, looking into it, having that information there helps. Because right now I could click on, the Yixing black tea, but I still don't know how long I need to brew it, even with a timer.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
All in all, good show, I feel.
Yeah,
Actually, now
any
that
final
I'm
thoughts?
thinking about it, that would be very easy to implement in our I believe it would be our app.js in our print teas. We could just add another paragraph and have it print out the steep time. And we would need to, on line 241, just also call in the brewing time or steeping time.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Your keys are separated by spaces. It might be a little more difficult.
Yeah.
You don't have to add it now.
Yeah.
It's fine. But I get
But
what you're
just
saying.
to show how easy it would be.
Yeah, for sure.
If we want to take it to the next group, I think now would be the time.